weapons and supplies, but you need a place to track your stuff, cause you're so disorganized. You click open the web page, you heard about a critical role, and now you're ready to kick some butt in a mine shot full of no's. It's TNT, TNT Beyond, yeah, TNT, TNT Beyond. You got your stats, you got your swords, and you got your invisible wall. It's TNT, TNT Beyond.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Bradford, the product director for D&D Beyond. Welcome to this week's edition of And Beyond. This is our monthly development update and community Q&A session. So we're going to jump right into this like we always do, but this is the time that we're not going to have a guest in here today. We're not going to be blessed with Todd Kenrick's beautiful mug. It's just going to be me. You're stuck with me today, but we're going to talk about everything that's been going on with D&D Beyond. We're going to give you the opportunity to ask me all the questions. There are very few that I will not answer, so we'll have plenty of opportunity for that. I'm going to try to leave as much time as I possibly can. We ran out last month that we did this a pretty good bit, so we're going to make sure that we make time for the questions this month. Really looking forward to it. Let's jump in. While we're here, as always, we are going to provide the latest updates, talk about where we are with D&D Beyond. We're going to talk about some of the minor updates that we've been making to the character sheet in the recent weeks throughout the last month. We're going to talk about the Homebrew sharing changes that we introduced last time. Those have gone live. We're going to talk about a data update. So we've been around for a year at this point. Many of you are going to remember an article by 538. At some point, I believe it was maybe 8 months ago or so, that talked about class and race distributions, and we're going to get into that as an update here. We've got some interesting developments going on, so we're going to look at that data, and it's pretty in-depth data. So really going to dig into that today. We're going to talk about where we're going. What's the short-term roadmap? What's our upcoming schedule heading into September? And then, as I said, you are going to ask questions in chat. You can start doing that right now because we have someone new helping us today that I am incredibly excited to talk about. Our new community manager, Lauren Urban. You might know her as Oboe Crazy. She is in the chat right now. I see her name flying all over the place, but she is here as our new community manager. I think Todd just decided he was going to just completely skip out today. Now, I actually think he's at the Wizards offices right now, meeting with some people, possibly interviewing. So that's what's happening with Todd, but Lauren is in the chat. She is going to be keeping an eye on all the questions today. So if you have a question, you can go ahead and start asking those. Preface it with, in all caps, if you can, question, where she can identify those and start compiling them for us. All right. What's next? Where we are. So the latest updates, hold on one second. I've got my phone is vibrating incredibly loud right on the desk with me, so I chunked it on the floor. All right, we're good to go now. Latest updates, character sheet updates. We've had a variety of bug fixes that have gone in. Anytime you work on something as large in scope as this character sheet revamp was, you're going to have some bugs that are introduced as a result of all these changes. You're going to have some things that have been on the list for a while that we've been waiting until that's in place before we address them. That is the nature of the bugs that we've been fixing. So you can go and look at the changelog. There have been all kinds of them. I'm not going to bore you with those details today, but we have been fixing the bugs. We also introduced the support and the capability to have an actual functional version of Green Flame Blade and Booming Blade. And we also introduced a way for you to do this on your own. So you can start going out and homebrewing your own versions of these melee attack spell cantrips. So Green Flame Blade, Booming Blade, really very popular spells. So we'll do some spells data maybe next month, but these are incredibly popular spells, especially for particular kinds of builds, and we have provided that support now. You can see which weapons qualify as that. It's going to show up in your attack section. We also have provided support for one that apparently, as we'll see a little bit later, these warlocks are starting to take over everything. So Warlock is a very emergent, very popular class for a variety of reasons. And the Book of Ancient Secrets, and of course, by virtue of that, once we solved the Book of Ancient Secrets problem, we also have solved the problem with ritual caster feats. So you're able now to add as many spells as you want to that qualifies rituals into your Book of Ancient Secrets or your ritual book as a ritual caster. So you can do that now. And then we are allowing you to finally track all of your exhaustion levels to a finite degree. So all the frenzied berserkers out there that are just really wearing yourselves out to try to eke out a little more damage, you're going to be able to keep track of how exhausted you actually are. So all of that's been happening with the character sheet. There are plenty of other things that we'll get to in the short-term roadmap, the future-looking thing that we have been working on, but I'm not defining that as working on it because we're actually conceptualizing and finalizing design and everything else that goes into it. I am defining things as we are working on them when development code is being written that could conceivably be viewed by our developers or demoed. So we're not quite there on some of the other character sheet things, but a great deal of activity is going on in parallel with some of these other changes that will get us into a good place as we're going into the next couple of weeks. Homebrew sharing changes. So this was a big change for us. As we started with launch of D&D Beyond, as you know, we had a homebrew approval queue. And so this queue was something that if you wanted to share your creation with the community, you were able to submit that for approval. It would go to a moderation queue. We have a team of 7 moderators that are, we're really looking at this stuff very, very closely. It was becoming a real problem with the volume that we were receiving. And so we just weren't able to continue down that path. And so as we talked about last time, we made some changes, and those went live about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's almost been a month, but we removed the approval process entirely. So now you can publish instantly. As soon as you want to share that, it is going to show up, and you can share that with your friends. You can paste links to it on social media, and they can get to that item and add that to their collection if that's what they want to do. They might not like it, and they might not add it to the collection. I don't know. But if they like it, they can add it to their homebrew collection instantly. We are relying now on reporting the bad homebrew that's out there to hopefully allow that in conjunction with rankings to allow the good stuff to bubble up to the top. So that's the intent, and we've been keeping a close eye on this, and so far we're pretty happy with the results. We're definitely very happy with the results of you being able to publish this stuff instantly. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that. So happy with that piece. We're going to keep monitoring how the reporting and how inappropriate material or copyrighted material, how much that's getting through. So we're going to keep a really close eye on that and make tweaks as needed. But right now, things seem to be in a pretty good spot with that. And we also implemented pre-publishing checks. So I'm sure if you create a lot of homebrew, you have seen this, where if you are trying to create a variation of an item, you have to significantly change the text of that element before you can publish that, because we're not wanting public homebrew to serve the purpose of, I want a +1 vicious weapon, but I want a +2 vicious weapon. That's not the purpose of public homebrew. You can do that privately all you want to, and we heavily encourage you to do that, but it's not the purpose of public sharing. We want that to be unique creations that you're putting out there for the community to utilize, and so that's the purpose of those pre-publishing checks. So again, We are pretty happy with where this is right now. It could have gone a lot worse in some of our projections. So right now, things are really, really stable with this. We're going to continue to keep an eye on it. And as I said earlier, we have a new community manager. I'm going to just bring it up again because we're really excited about this. You guys know Oboe Crazy from all of the D&D streams that are happening out there. She is omnipresent. She has been an incredibly positive force in the community. We are really happy to welcome her aboard. Like kind of clap or, like whistle if you can whistle. I never was able to do that thing. Like my dad used to be able to like just put fingers right here on the sides of his mouth and like blow your eardrums out. But I can't do that. But whatever you're doing at home, please be doing it in celebration because we're very happy to welcome Lauren aboard. What's next? Oh, this thing. We'll give away a legendary bundle. We do this occasionally. I mean, this may be the only one here today. You guys know I'm lying. I can't even keep a straight face with that. So we'll give away a few of these as we go along today. And the legendary bundle, if you don't know, is the collection of every single bit of official content that has been released on D&D Beyond. It always collects everything. So this is, everything all the way up through the latest release, which I guess is Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron. So everything up to that point you can have as part of the legendary bundle. We are going to give one away here in just a moment. You have to type something in chat. Let us know that you exist, that you're an actual human being somewhere in the chat. Let's see if people are typing because I need to make sure that I'm covering for the technology delay that goes on with streaming. And we're going to give one away here in just a little while, but I'm making sure that everyone gets an opportunity to type something in chat. And we're going to give away one in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, magic button. Alpha underscore Gator. Congratulations. Alpha Gator. I like it quite a bit. Very good. Very good username, Alpha Gator. Congratulations. All right. So, Alpha Gator, you have won the first, possibly only, legendary bundle of the day. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the data. We've got race and class distributions that we're going to get into. So there is a lot going on your screen right now. So I'm going to try to dissect this a little bit. So out of the millions and millions of characters that we have on D&D Beyond now, we are starting to get some phenomenal data. And this is very helpful just in general for the game. Wizards of the Coast is very interested and looks at this data on a regular basis. It's really fascinating to be able to see what is happening, what people are choosing, how people are playing the game. So really interesting to get that peek into it. We're even starting to see some things, these are super secret things I can't talk about, but D&D Beyond and where it is and what it is providing in the community at this point is even starting in at least some small ways to impact how some of the designers are designing things in some of the future products. So this is really, really exciting news. This is a place and a role that we really have wanted to play, and we're starting to really come into that role. And it's just a really wild ride to be a part of it. But this data in particular does not show a ton of surprises based on what you saw last time for the top tier elements and what you would expect. But we are starting to see some changes begin to happen in some of the other pieces of the data. So, as always, and I'm going to just go ahead and say always, I would be incredibly surprised if this ever changed in the game itself. Human Fighter is the number one choice. Out of all the millions and millions of characters that we have, 4% of those are human fighters. this has always, dating back to the first edition of the game, been the most popular option for players. There are probably a variety of reasons behind that. The only thing I would change about that is, it being a half orc instead of a human. But fighter is typically a very strong class. It's also, depending on how you play it, and in most editions of the game, one of the simplest to pick up. Some would argue, difficult to master. But either way, fighter, and especially the human fighter, is the most popular combination that we have. You also see at the bottom there at the total that 13% of all these characters are fighters across the board, regardless of race. Now, if you're trying to really do the math here, this is not going to add up. I had to chop this off, so this list was all the races that we have on D&D Beyond, and it goes out to, I don't even know how many we have now, 50 perhaps. So this is just the top 20 or so that we have. But you see that fighter is the most popular choice, followed by rogue. And then this one is the one that continues to surprise us. Warlock is strongly in third place at this point from a total perspective. And it has surpassed the cleric and the wizard, which when we started and we didn't have as much of the additional subclasses that became available in Xanathar's Guide to Everything available, in that data, we saw what we expected, at least initially, with a fighter, rogue, wizard, cleric distribution that is kind of the classic, fighter and thief and mage, and then we've got the cleric. So we expected to see that, but the warlock has really shot through the ranks and is now in the third position for popularity of characters created and at least on some level played. And again, those are, it is difficult for us to, we don't have cameras in everyone's homes. We don't know if these are actually being played at the table necessarily or not, but we're trying to make some pretty safe assumptions, hit point adjustments, those kind of things. But Warlock is incredibly popular these days. One of the things that is really interesting that we also, it might not be, causation here, but it's a definite correlation between warlocks becoming more popular, and then you see that the tiefling race is also becoming far more popular than it had been until warlocks started to gain so much steam. Now, clearly, tieflings get very ideal racial trait modifiers that help with being a warlock. But either way, tieflings are becoming far more popular. We also could potentially attribute some of that to the popularity of certain, well, I don't know if I should say deceased or not. I won't name any names, and then it's not a spoiler. But certain deceased player characters that are beloved by many, the tiefling popularity really could be that could contribute to the tieflings being more and more popular here as well. So really fascinating to look at this data. I'm trying to see where else I want to dig in a bit. A lot of people really try to say some bad things about that ranger class, and I just don't necessarily believe it. First of all, based on my own personal experience with the ranger class, Beastmaster maybe not quite as much, but especially the other ranger subclasses, very, very strong, very fun character that you can play. Ranger is, in the middle of the pack. It is not like it is trailing behind things, in any kind of strong way. Another thing that I can call out is that you can see that Firbolg have started to climb up the ranks. They were nowhere near this high before when we did the data. And I think when we did the data, for 538, they only saw the player's handbook races. So this is probably the first time you're seeing some of the non-PHB races included here. And you can see that for the most part, the player's handbook races are still the most popular because they've just been around longer. But you do see the Aasimar. Let's see, is there anything else? So it's mainly the Aasimar. You've got Goliaths are up there pretty high. And then, let's see, Tabaxi. Look at the Warforged here, all right? So the Warforged have only been out, has it been a month at this point, maybe 6 weeks? they have only been out that long, and you see that the Warforged have shot up through this as well. And this is not something that we would necessarily expect from any of the other races that were introduced that recently. But Warforged has proven to be a very popular option. But that Fearbolg, I was going to, as we come across, you might not be able to see it on your screen there, but under Druid, you see that there is a little bit of heat, a little bit of the shading and the color there for Fearbolg Druids. And we, hypothesize that could have potentially something to do with, some of the recent characters in Critical Role as well. So let's see, anything else? Oh, we've got the Changeling. I didn't realize the Changeling were also on there. So Warforged and Changelings from the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron are already making quite a splash in characters that have been created. So if you have any questions specifically about this data, feel free also to ask those, and Lauren can put those together. And when we get to the Q&A time, I will see if we can come back here to look at this, or I will do my best to answer those off of memory. As always, we'll continue to take a look at that data. We're really, really happy to dig into this, and we're really happy to be able to share that with the community. We're looking for some ways to do that on a more regular basis as well. So stay tuned for that. We're trying to figure out some ways that we can do that. All right, where we are going. This is what is happening in development right this second. And then this is anything that is going for the short-term roadmap, which would be, we think we're going to get to this next. So if it's in progress, code is being written for it. And if it is upcoming, it means that once code has completed being written for those other things that are in progress, these are the next things that we're going to start jumping into. And I also want to take a moment after I'm going to watch me do this. Look at this nice, let's see. Let's make sure we get look at that ampersand. I love that ampersand. All right. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how the D&D Beyond team is evolving. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek into how the team is changing as the team is growing and as everything that's going on with the D&D Beyond platform is growing. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the upcoming section as well. But right now we are working on mobile swiping. I got to play with it yesterday, kind of a demo version of this. And I think this is going to make people really, really happy. I kind of want to give a shout out to Scott Benish, the person that's doing a lot of that magic right there. Really impressed with how the implementation is taking the best of the swiping elements while still maintaining the quick jump navigation. So we had people torn pretty much down the middle on, all the feedback after we compiled it. We saw that some people really liked to just simply hit that floating action button in the bottom right of the mobile character sheet and tap another button to go directly to a section. Other people wanted to swipe. And so now we're going to have the best of both worlds. I'm really excited about it. I wish I could phone a friend right now and put him on the spot and see when we're going to be able to get that out to you. But I would never do that to Scott. He's a good guy. But yes, so we think this is going to be reasonably soon, and I'm really excited to get this into everyone's hands. Very, very neat functionality that's happening there. The mobile app beta. So phase 2 of this, I feel like we're getting really, really close on this one as well. But as with all things in development, you don't know it's done until it's done. But I do feel like we're getting really close here, and everything that I'm seeing is very exciting. I can't wait for people to also see that, because part of the feedback that we really get in the beta right now is, hey, it's great to have these books. It's great to be able to have these books offline and be able to read these books when I'm in the line at the grocery store or when I'm on an airplane. All of that's great, but sometimes I just want to open it up and find a spell really quick, especially if I don't have internet access. That is what this next phase of the mobile app beta is going to deliver, is all of those listings that we have on the website with spells and magic items and monsters and character classes and feats and so on. You're going to be able to do that in the mobile app. It is a fully native experience, so it's going to be incredibly snappy to get back and forth, between those elements. So it's going to be really great, especially as a reference tool. If you're using it, you can second screen that stuff. That if you're prepping for your game that week, I hope you're not spending more than like an hour, 2 maximum prepping for your game, because you might be overdoing it otherwise. But as you're prepping for your game, you might be using one screen for one purpose, and you can look up spells, super easy on your tablet or your phone. Looking forward to getting that out and starting to get feedback in the beta on that. The Twitch extension, we showed off a little teaser video of that not too long ago with, kind of how that the interface for that has evolved and how that's changed, and I'm really excited about this. I've gotten a crazy amount of Twitter messages, from people that are wanting to beta test the interactive stream overlay that we've got going on. Nothing that I can share on any of that yet, so I'm not ignoring you, but I can't possibly answer all of those messages. I don't think there's enough time in the day. But just keep in mind that we are developing this. We do want to get this out as quickly as we can. We're really excited about what this is going to do for D&D streaming, how it's going to potentially save a lot of overlay space, allow these overlays to, if you're not having to display all the character information at one time on your overlay, you can focus a little bit more on the players themselves, make the shots bigger, and all of that for the players. So really looking forward to this, and this really is just the beginning for this extension. We've got a lot of ideas for what we can do to enhance the experience of watching streamed Dungeons & Dragons. So that is everything that is being worked on currently that would fit on this slide. So there are other things that are definitely being worked on. One of the things that I can call out that's not on here is I've mentioned that we're doing some renovation on how navigation works on the website. It's called a mega menu, and we're doing some things with that is just going to be amazing. I personally cannot wait for it. I sometimes, especially with all the elements that we're starting to get in the main navigation and how many items are in these lists, we're going to make this much, much easier for you to not lose your place of where you're going, to be able to find things much more easily. So that is also being worked on currently. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can talk about, but that is what is in progress right now. So upcoming, we are getting to the creatures section. Now, we've talked about this creature section. This is where you're going to be able to represent the statistics for something that you might wild shape into. This is how you can have your familiars statistics available for you. Beast Companion for the Ranger. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. You can do mounts. You can do, all of those kinds of things. If you want the statistics for some summoned creatures that you typically summon, you can pull that into this creatures section. It really is supposed to be a catch-all, one place for any kind of monster or NPC stat blocks that you want to pull in. So even if you want to do followers, if you have followers, or the cohort, if you use the cohort system from older editions of the game, you can pull statistics in. If you're a knight, you can grab a squire stat block and pull that in, where you can talk about young Arthur and all the stuff that he's got to learn. So all of that's going to happen in the creatures section. The reason it's in upcoming is because we haven't gotten to that phase that I'm telling you where we're putting, actual code into databases and repositories and all that. I can assure you a lot of work is going on for that, though. We've got a plan, and it's going to be really exciting to see this creatures section come to life. Character builder overhaul. This is another thing that is very, on the horizon here. So as we wrap some of these other elements up, we're going to jump into a character builder overhaul. I'm using the word overhaul because I'm tired of the word revamp. to be quite honest. They are fairly synonymous, but yeah. So this overhaul is going to be what I've talked about before, where we're going to get rid of the need for the character builder itself, and we're going to instead focus on the character builder being this way that you get a character in the first place. And as soon as that character is created, everything else happens within the character sheet. You edit, you level up, everything else happens in the character sheet. So that's a direction that product is going. We are going to get into source management. And then this is the first time this is hitting this short-term list. So I hope there's a little bit of excitement out there that we are starting to actually look at the encounter builder as being on our horizon, our short-term horizon now. So we're going to start getting into that when some of these other things wrap up. So I hope that's exciting for folks. It's exciting for me. Encounter builder kind of followed by the monster builder and everything that I've been talking about with that. So we're really starting to see some interesting changes happen. This is where I wanted to take a second and talk a little bit about the D&D Beyond team and how we're beginning to organize. And I'm not going to get into a lot of internal details or anything like that. But D&D Beyond, someone asked me the other day what DDB is. And it is actually pretty difficult to explain that in a sentence or two at this point in time, because we're just doing so many different things, and it's not, we don't have an incredibly good thing to compare this to in previous editions or anything else. So yes, we are an official digital tool set for Dungeons and Dragons, but we're doing some other things, apart from that. We've got all this original content that happens and goes on, and you guys are engaging with. So we have many different elements that we are focusing on, and as the team is getting bigger, and the team is getting bigger, by the way, very excited about some new folks coming in. Oh wow, do you guys see that reflection? That is so cool. Wow. All right, sorry, hummingbird. All right, I'm back with you. So with everything that's going on with the scaling of the teams, we've got an opportunity to really dig in and figure out what products are part of this platform, because D&D Beyond isn't just a single product at this point in time. We have this platform that is starting to take off, and we've got different elements of that we want to focus on. And so we're starting to organize the teams around some of those really core elements of what we're doing. So we have a content product for sure. It was one of the things that we started with. So all the game content, all the homebrew content, and how all those things work together, we have a content product. And so the content product is starting to take off with its own roadmap and its own resources. So that's going to be going on one track where we're doing new things with, whether it's compendium content, listings, things like site navigation, mobile app beta, all of this content that we're putting in there. All of that is part of that core pillar of this platform now, the content side of that. We have characters, obviously, is a really, really big part of this, and we've been heavily investing in that over the last several months. The characters product is going to have its own resources, and it's going to have its own roadmap as they're starting to go forward. Now, I don't want anybody to get the impression that when I'm saying these three places that we're focusing, that means, oh, they've got 20 developers and each of that's not what's happening yet. But we are starting to get to a point where we're getting to a space and a size where we're starting to get to the point where we can really try to begin the focus into these areas, and it's just going to make the entire platform better and better. And so the third one of those is the one that we're really starting to get into here in the very near future, which we're just calling challenges, which is encounter building, monster building, and everything else that's going on. So you got the underlying content, the rules, and the engine that's going on for the game of Dungeons and Dragons. Then you've got your characters, you've got your challenges, and then as I talked about 2 years ago, the utopia that we're marching toward is we're going to put all those things together into combat tracking and all the automation that we can possibly do for that. But the main thing that I'm trying to share with you is that the team is getting a little bigger slowly, and we are trying to ramp up, and we're trying to focus in the areas that have resonated with the community. And I think that that focus and being able to use our resources in that way is going to be really, really good for all three of those core product areas as we go forward. We definitely believe that we will add additional products to this over time as the resources allow us to do so. And as we keep going and keep trying to provide the best digital resource we possibly can for the community, we're going to always keep an eye on what the community needs are and try to get the biggest needs that we possibly can met for the community, and we'll organize around that. Pulled back the curtain a little bit to let you know how we're organizing around that. I'm really excited about it, and I think you guys, whether you realize it or not, are going to start to see some really good results because of that. What's next? Oh, upcoming schedule. All right, so in September, next week on And Beyond, Todd and I will be talking to someone that I've mentioned a couple of times here, Lauren Urban. So we're going to be talking to Lauren on And Beyond next week. She's going to be our special guest. And I'm pretty sure we confirmed this. I think we're going to be talking about music. I'm going to be doing everything that I possibly can to get Lauren to play music on this stream. So, she might be getting upset about that or something, but I'm going to be doing everything I can and pulling out all the stops to make sure that happens. So we're going to get into music, and Lauren's going to talk about how music impacts her D&D experience. Really looking forward to that. If you didn't realize this, we also have a release happening next week. I don't know if you're excited at all about going to the City of Splendor's Waterdeep. Dragon Heist is going to release, and so this is the actual date and time that this will be available on D&D Beyond, so you can mark your calendars. It's going to be available on Thursday, September 6th, which technically, if you're in the Eastern time zone, that is, September 7th, midnight Eastern time. If you're on the West Coast, that's going to be 9 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday, September 6th. That is when Dragon Heist will be available on D&D Beyond. As we talked about last time, we have a nice little contest that's coming up in the month of September. I don't quite have a date yet. We're working out all the final little details. But in the month of September, we're going to announce a contest where you can create characters that can apply to be part of Holly Conrad's Strix Chicken Foot Coven that is happening in the Dice Camera Action game. So if you get selected, and right now the plan is for 3 winners to be selected, you get to guest star on Dice Camera Action, dungeon mastered by Chris Perkins. You get to play with Anna Prosser Robinson and Holly Conrad and Nate and all the folks that are part of Dice Camera Action. You get to be a guest star, and all you have to do is create a character with an interesting backstory that is eye-catching enough to be interesting to Holly Conrad, and she's going to get you on. And it doesn't have to be a spellcaster to join the coven. Apparently, the primary goal of the coven is kind of like pie baking. And so if you're going to bake pies and you want to be a barbarian or a monk that bakes pies and you want to somehow incorporate that into your backstory, then you might get the chance to guest star on Dice Camera Action and play with all of those folks. It's going to be a really exciting thing. I'm sure it's going to be incredibly hilarious too, so stay tuned for that. Then in October, we're going to have a presence at TwitchCon. Excited about that. And then in November, we will have a presence. We're going to be doing a lot of streaming from GameholeCon. So we're really looking forward to that. That's an outstanding convention that I've heard a lot about, and I haven't been to it yet. So this is my first time, and I can't wait to go. So if you guys can make it to either of those, be sure to say hello and run into the D&D Beyond team while we're at those places. What is next? I suspected. All right, so we're going to give away another legendary bundle you have to type something in chat, not necessarily the word something, but you have to type words of some sort into the chat in order to qualify for this incredibly random giveaway that is about to happen in, I feel like I've delayed probably enough at this point. It's going to happen in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going to give this a try. We're going to say MOP 314 159. MOP 314 159. Congratulations. You won a legendary bundle. Any of the winners that happen here today, we will get with you after the show somehow, very likely through private message on D&D Beyond itself. That's the easiest thing. If we can't track you down there, we'll try to find you through Twitch or other means. But we will award that after the show. Thank you for playing, and thank you for watching. All right, let's see. I am pretty sure, yes, next is Q&A time. So we're going to jump into some questions. And based on the amount of vibration that has been coming off of this table, or desk, I guess, we have a lot of questions today. Wow. Okay. We got about 20 minutes, so I'm going to do the best I can, folks. All right. Sir Digby Chicken Caesar 13, I guess is how you say that. How far out are we from oh, you know what? I'm forgetting something. I'm going to answer this question, and then I'm going to move to some others that we had. How far out are we from familiars and wild shape? If you, William, where I don't just reveal all the secrets in the world, make sure that we don't come back to my screen for just a second, because otherwise the entire beans will be spilled and everyone will know everything that I try so hard to hide from them. So give me just a second here. I had some other. Just keep it on me the whole time here. I'm gonna carry this thing. I don't need the slide anyway. All right. So familiars and wild shape and animal companions. All of that is on the very, very short term. As in, I may be wrong about this. I don't think I am. As in, I think development is going to start next week. So we do weekly sprints at this point in time, and I'm pretty sure development's going to start next week. If I'm wrong on that, it would definitely be the week after that. So it's coming. It's going to be pretty soon. All right, we got some questions from Facebook and Twitter, and we said that we would get to these with some priority, so I don't want to make a liar of anybody. So we're going to get here. So let's see. The first question is about animal companions and familiars, so I did that. Okay, this is a question about that, though. Familiars are coming soon. Can we customize them? This is from Kim in a Can. I hope you get out of that. Can we customize them? Name, stats, inventory, etc. Will optional class skills that modify them, pack to the chain, all that, be visible in their information box? And can we view and activate their variant familiar? Add a variant familiar there. So on the last part there, you can add a variant familiar because you can technically add any creature. It's just you have to classify it as a familiar, and then it will get all the statistical implications of being a familiar when you do that. As far as customizing them, you will definitely be able to customize the name. I'm not incredibly sure as a first pass if you're going to be able to override all the stats or any of that yet. But yes, you will be able to customize the name. You can give it a name of Fluffy or whatever you need to do. And then any of the class skills that modify them, those are things that whether they are there in the initial pass, because for most spellcasters that cast the summon or find familiar spell, when they do that, they're not going to have those extra things. So we would not want to hold back the entire feature just to make sure that we're covering a couple of those exception cases. So in the first pass, likely not, but it is something that we would be adding very similar to our modifier system that we use for player characters at this point. Let's see. Nathan Huff says it would be awesome to see more statistics, even if it was just updated percentage breakdowns of backgrounds and classes that you guys showed us around last September. I feel like I hit on a little bit of that today. We will continue to show statistics every time we have a monthly update. And as I alluded to earlier, we would love to figure out a way for you to be able to see some of these statistics on a more regular basis. We are spitballing some things right now. We'll see how that goes. James Endicott, are you going to be implementing stuff to help make Season 8 of Adventures League easier, notably adding what lettered table an item comes from to the magic item filter and magic item details page? That's an excellent question, and the answer is I would really love to, but it's not going to happen for Season 8. It's just coming too quickly for us. We actually, because of the nature of these changes and everything that else that's going on with it, we knew about the changes when you knew about the changes. And so we, a lot of that was still in flux. And especially when it comes to coding something, we were not going to get the early sneak peek of these rules and start coding things that then could potentially be changed, at a later time. So we know where the rules are now. We're going to start to look for ways to support that more and more. I think the suggestions you bring up here are wonderful, and those are likely things to happen. And then we get into, from Lou Andrews and Jordan Yoder, a couple of questions about third-party content, Kobold Press, the Tal'Dorei campaign setting. As I've said numerous times before, and I know you guys are just having an exercise in relentlessness right now, and I genuinely applaud you for that. But as I've said before, it's something I personally would love to see. I am not the person that can actually make all those decisions, though. And so we have business realities and licensing realities and all kinds of really boring and unfun stuff that has not allowed us to do those things yet. We will continue to be relentless on our side to see if we can make that happen, but nothing that I can share at this point. Tony Cooper, I'm still waiting for the Life Cleric to be updated so the 2+ level is included in the healing. Simple fix, but so annoying it's not there yet. I am very sorry you're annoyed with that. I imagine that is annoying. There are a variety of effects that are incredibly specific to not even a class, but to a specific subclass of a class that we have not been able to address yet. The Life Cleric falls into that. We do base a lot of those decisions about what we are covering based on the statistics that I showed you a little bit earlier. So in other words, we are trying to address those in order of priority as to what people are playing the most. Life Cleric is a reasonably popular build, and so I imagine that's something that we would see sooner rather than later. Book of Ancient Secrets, for example, I barely could sleep at night because of all the people that were beating down the door wanting support for that. So this is where we are doing the best that we can with the resources that we have and basing our decisions as much as possible on the data that we have in front of us. But yes, it is coming. It is something that we need to do. Let's see. DM Avid, maybe. Sorry if I butchered that. ETA on campaign shared inventory. Needs some way to share that loot. So no ETA. So really, if any of you start any of these questions with any ETA, do you have an ETA for anything like that? I'm going to say the initial part of the answer is no. I don't have an ETA for any of those things. And I've made that that assertion a pretty good bit of times, and I think that's pretty clear at this point. What I can talk about is where the priorities lie and what we're working on and when. And that part of shared campaign inventory is something we really want to do. And I imagine that's a 2019 thing. I can't tell you any a clearer window than that, but it is something that we want to do. Let's see. Andrew Webb, any updates on the mobile app in the near future? Yes, I hope in the near future we have all of our listings compendium content in there in the beta. Is there a time frame for character sheets in the mobile app? That's an excellent question. Again, I don't have a time frame, but I can tell you that character sheets, now that we are in a very stable place with where the character sheet look and feel is for the website, we would the very next thing that we would work on for the mobile app is getting the character sheet into the mobile app. That is the next priority past what we're currently doing with the beta development. Let's see. Mark McCollum, shared content filter update. I think that is probably referring to source management, and as I shared earlier, that's on the short list. So something that we're getting to, pretty soon here. At least starting the development on it pretty soon. Please do not misinterpret that. All right, Carlin Riley, Spelljammer. Nothing to share on that. I can't share anything on that. The Last Refuge. Y'all keep teasing the Twitch integration. Do we have a drop date? There's that no again. Or even just a month or season we might look forward to for that. No, sorry, but it is coming soon. Zach Hall, any way to sign up to be beta testers for the DDB Twitch extension? There's that thing that I keep getting PM'd with all over the place. No, we don't have any information on that yet. Alex, Player of Games, will there be any virtual DM screen, things the DM can have ready to display but hidden from the players? Yes, that is something that the content team is really keen on doing, and that is on the roadmap. It's not on that short-term thing yet, but it is something we're going to get to. I'm very excited to see the result of that as well. Martian Tobey, will there be a dice roller on the site anytime soon? Depends on your definition of anytime soon. Bruce 4009, it is planned. 7102, any plans for an encounter and initiative tracker? Yes, and I can't wait for it. Year of the Tom, what are the plans for the West March campaigns? Plans for the West March campaigns. I'm not following that part of the question necessarily, like at least how that's applying to DDB here, or just the ability to open up for a larger group of players than 12. So I've talked about this in the past, and we've been trying to throw this around and figure out the best way to do this, but we would love to make it to where when you're doing content sharing, it is not limited by the number of people in a campaign, but it's limited by the number of players in a campaign. So it would probably still be 12 players per campaign, but those players, especially a DM, can have multiple players. So that's the only change that I know about that we are actively discussing, in order to hopefully make that happen at some point. Miles Main, only 2 more of these. Will there be custom base weapons in the future? Not magic items, but actual mundane weapons. So we've said no to that for a long time, and I have told you guys, and I'm about to eat a little bit of crow here. I've told you guys that we are constantly listening for feedback from the community. I think we've demonstrated that, fairly well. And this is one of those points of feedback that does continue to come up. And then we had a happy accident with some other technology that we were working on for some other thing that I won't talk about yet. And I do think the feasibility of having being able to at least edit and create, these other types of base weapons could potentially happen. That's how far I'll go at this point in time. It's not a hard no from me at this point. So hopefully that will bring a smile to your face. Mimic 8 My Wife, are classes hard coded, or is there internal tools like the subclass So yeah, this is basically asking if we use forms like you see in our Homebrew forms to input base classes, and the answer to that is yes. So it does exist. Part of the reason that we don't have base classes available in Homebrew is because the Artificer, taking that as an example, if you were to try to homebrew that, we have no way that you could allow the Artificer to attune to up to 4 items instead of 3. The sheer amount of variation that we would have to cover with a base class is just too wide for us right now. And it probably is in the future. And that's the reason we've said no base classes in Homebrew. Again, just like mundane weapons, we will continue to evaluate the feedback. We'll see where we go as we get better and better tools. We'll see, how that impacts that decision as well. But it is something that we enter through a form like that, and then when we run into something like at least the latest version of the Artificer, I don't know if this will carry over or not into to when they eventually release the update. But if you can attune to 4 different weapons at one time, that's something we would have to build specifically to be able to be used for the Artificer. Now, we would build that in a way that it would probably be a modifier of some sort that you would then be able to utilize in your own types of homebrew subclasses, that kind of thing. But in the short term, base classes are really, really tough. All right, I think that is all of those, and I am going back to clean mode on the computer here where we don't have any sensitive information showing. And we will get to Twitch chat questions. We have how much time? What time is it? I don't know what time it is. Well, 7 minutes. All right, I'm going to do as much as I can, folks. All right. Fantasy Grounds, character export, combat tracker, and counter builder. On the first one, we'd love to do it. Just haven't had the bandwidth to do it for Fantasy Grounds. Combat tracker and encounter builder, yes, can't wait. Saber Runner, how are you doing with the various requested campaign management tools? We're not doing anything other than conceptualizing things at this point in time. As you can see, based on what I shared, you're seeing what is in development and what is on the short-term horizon. It's something we're keeping an eye on. And again, we're trying to address the things that have the biggest impact based on the feedback that we're getting. That's how we try to prioritize. Okay, I kind of answered that one already. DM screen to quickly view campaign player stats. Yes, we're going to do that. Don't know when yet. Dodo Dude, question. In March last year, you told us there will be an API for D&D Beyond. Can you give us an update for this? Yeah, I probably mentioned that back in March that there would be an API, but very similar to the answers that I'm having to give on some of this today, there definitely was not an ETA associated with that. So yes, we intend to eventually open up an API for D&D Beyond, but it is not in our short-term window. All right, let's see. Saber Runner, any chance there will be AL legality checking and a proper log sheet for Season 8? Not for Season 8, but let's see what we can do for 9. Trey 501 question, will you make a train race because I like trains? I mean, you could do this in our homebrew tools, make a train race. That sounds like a wonderful... You could, theoretically, rules as written, be a Warforged with a vehicle's land proficiency and say that you turn into a locomotive if that is what you would like to do. All right, Dilla Gaffern, any update on Kindle Fire app and implementation? No update, but it is something that is still planned. Sir Digby, ability and character builder to search by stat bonuses. That's a good idea. We'll see when we can get around to that. Tristan Dubat 20. Any work being done on making animal companion? Yes. Let's see. Talked about that before. Let's see. Yeah, this is a good one. Werlin, is character organization on the near schedule? For those with unlimited characters, the chronological order by date added isn't great. I completely agree, and this one really bothers me personally. I imagine we're going to see something on that before too much longer, on the folders, all sorting, all kinds of things for your My Characters page. Let's see. A lot of duplicates here, and I'm just trying to make sure that I get past those. Let's see. MJS October, can we have an offline app for Mac and PC? No, not currently in any of our plans. Turtle Tonto, are you going to add the sorry, that was a duplicate. Let's see. A lot of duplicates. Let's make sure. Are there any plans to reward referrals to introducing friends to DDB? I really like that idea, and it's not something that we've given thought to. So let me take the mental note, and we'll check into that. Let's see. Character sheet in the app. We know you want the character sheets in the app, mobile app. Is it possible to have other bundles? That's a great question. And basically what that means is, could we potentially have a bundle that is just source book content, a bundle that is just adventures? I think that's what you're getting at with the question. It is something that I am actively exploring, and we'll see what happens. But we're talking about that with Wizards of the Coast. let's see. Status effects / exhaustion showing an effect on speed or stats. That's on the roadmap. I saw a Jira ticket for that the other day. That's the system we use. So yes, at some point. Planned DM improvements on the roadmap that you can share. Have you ever been a DM and needed a monster on the fly, and you wanted a monster that fit a certain challenge rating that you needed, and since you could not possibly do all that math in your head, you chose something from that challenge rating and you reskinned it, and you said that carrion crawler was all of a sudden a mind flayer, and you just approximated. So yes, the monster builder, encounter builder, all that stuff is going to dramatically improve your DM experience when it comes to anything on that side. That's what we're focusing on, first before we get to any of those other things. Let's see. Are there any talks to and plans to release official one-off adventures for purchase on the site? There are some plans. None of them have come to fruition yet. Let's see. Are there any plans to make the search function more robust like an index? Oftentimes I don't have the exact term I want, but related terms don't seem to help narrow my search. We are aware search is a little bit harder than a lot of people realize it is. And that's not an excuse. That is a reason that a company like Google has done so well for themselves. But it is something that we're aware of. We want to continually improve search, and we haven't been able to give it the focus that we want to. We're hoping that our content team especially can start to look into search improvements more and more. Let's see, maybe time for one more question. Okay. Is there a chance to see a multi-classing chart like the one that I showed earlier? Yeah, we can do that. I think that's a really good idea. Hopefully someone on the team is taking notes right now, and we'll try to do that possibly for next month. How are multi-classes represented in that data? It's a very good question, and right now I would have to look back at our assumptions on the data. I'm fairly certain that they're represented just one-to-one. So if the class is chosen, they're being represented in the data you're seeing right there. But that is something, it looks like a lot of multi-class questions, which is good. We can dig into that a little bit more next time. One more. Let's see. Adventures League support for character creation, limiting sources, player's handbook +1, log sheets. I said a little bit about that before, but that is something that, again, don't hold me to it, but we would love to see something be in place before we get to season 9. That's the right number, 9. So we are trying to get to that in the short-term horizon. That's all the time that we have for today. I really appreciate it, folks. Again, 20 minutes of questions. I was trying to talk as fast as I could. We still had all kinds of unanswered questions. I apologize if yours did not get answered. Next time, I might just seriously, say something for 5 minutes and then just get to questions. We'll give it a try. It can be an experiment. We'll see how it goes. But thank you for watching. If your question did not get answered, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I will gladly do that at Bad Eye Adam. I will answer questions there all day long too. Maybe not all day. I got to sleep at some point. But really appreciate you joining. Join us next week. Todd will be back. We'll be talking to our new community manager, Lauren Urban. Thanks. Have a great one.